Today, I want to talk to you from this subject matter. Suffering for the right reasons. Suffering for the right reasons. Persecution is a strange thing that happens to believers. And we think in our minds sometimes, why does God, who said he loves me, allows me to go through this torture that I go through in my life over and over again? God lets me go through the trials and tribulations of my life, and I keep struggling with that. And I think in my mind, I talk to him all the time. I pray to him every chance I get. When I get my monies, I bless him with my monies. Even with that, it seems like things just keep going on. I read my word every day. I understand it. But it seems like I ain't getting no closer to him. I read your word. You said you never leave me nor forsake me. That's what you said. It's your word. But I'm still going through the things that I'm going through. You said you never let the righteous be forsaken. Why do I go through these situations? Why are my finances being challenged when I'm doing the right thing? Why am I in a place where, the very ones who said they love me walk away from me? Why am I, but I said I'm a Christian. How am I the one going through all the storms that I'll go through? I cry myself to sleep at night in utter confusion. And I just don't get it. I don't get it, Lord, how I'm the one who seem like I'm barely holding on when people that don't go to church seem like they got it going on. I pray, you don't answer me. You said you answered me in due season. Is it not my season? Am I not righteous enough for you to come and help me? I mean, any of us having those type of conversations, in our lives, we being honest. Why am I the one that's sick all the time? This joke over here drink more than me. He ain't never been in the hospital one time. I drink one drink, I'm throwing all up all night. How's that mean? But I say that I'm a believer. But you got to understand these one things, and Peter helps us get through this thing. You can't be surprised by what's going on in your life. When you truly live for Christ, you cannot be surprised about the afflictions that go on in your life. We got to embrace the very things that are going on in our life and understand that this is our season to go through. We look on the news, we look at Facebook, with all these different things that are going on, all the foolishness that goes on in our society. We can't be surprised if we're going through some of the struggles that we're going through. There's no way we read our word, understand what Jesus went through, and we can be surprised at what we're going through, right? But the world has identified us as the enemy, and it's attacking us on every side. People oppose Christ, and they will oppose you the same way when you make a stand for him. It's hard sometimes, I understand, in our demographics, our life, and we got folk around us who don't represent who we are, so sometimes we blend in to them as opposed to standing up for what we believe. But he says in the word, he said, because you made a stand, he said, don't jump to conclusions that God is not on the job. He said, instead, be glad that you're in the very thick of what Christ experienced. And any of us have seen the passion of Christ. We've seen how he went through the affliction that he went through. That was just the end of it. We're not talking about what he went through in the beginning, through the middle, and some of the other things that went on in there. He was always second guessed because who he was. Every time he made a decision, somebody always had something to say. But he always answered them in a different way, didn't he? He answered them with the scripture, which helped them get past the situations that we're in. He had 12 of them with him. It wasn't one for a quarter, were they? So why can we be surprised when we got folk around us that act the same way? Because it's the same thing that's happening in here. We're emulating what Christ went through on our lives. Some of us, we got some very close friends around us. They ain't worth a quarter, are they? Call them in the midnight hour, see if they're going to be the ones that's going to help you. Call them when you lose your last. When your car gets taken, see if they're going to take you to work. These are your ride or dies, remember? They was with you, boy, when everything was going right, but where are they now? You can't be surprised these folks that turn their backs on you now. The world cannot understand the demands that it takes to be a Christian. Self-denial, humility, obedience. They don't understand that kind of stuff because it doesn't resonate to them because they live a life that's reckless. We can't put ourselves in that same position because we have the mark of Christ on us. But he talks about the fiery trials that come up against us. You know, we see it in our lives. You know, it's not a fact that folk come up against us. It's the fact that it gets ugly sometimes. You know, in our schools, somebody got something to say to our children. And we think about when we was back in school, they said different things, but it seems like it's at a different level now. You got these folk getting dragged out of school, beating folk up, and all this kind of carrying on. And they put this stuff on Facebook and folks cheer about it. This is still somebody's child that's being afflicted in the midst of that. How do we have 3,000, 4,000 likes on somebody getting beat up on Facebook? And you put a scripture on there, you get 2 likes. But we say that we believers. I shared something on Facebook today. Everybody's going to show up for the barbecue. But ask them to come to church. Some always seem to come up. See, but I say that I'm a believer, right? I only go to church on Sunday. Right, so we say, okay, we're gonna get past that. So we're gonna move it on Saturday. So we're gonna take out all the excuses for those who have to race traffic. The very ones that don't show up. But understand this: there still has to be enough Christ in you to just keep going. We can't be concerned about who's not here. What you concern yourself is, I'm here. I'm doing the best that I can. But don't think God doesn't notice what you're going through. It's your time to go through it. You know, a lot of us, we've been skating on grace for so long. It's time for us to go through something. You know, it's not one thing that I come out of my addiction and I say that I'm a believer. I'm going to start doing things different. But no. But think about all those times you went to bed high as a kite, never called on my name. But I woke you up the next morning. How many times you drove that car drunk as a skunk? Can't even remember how many times you got home or how you got there. But I wake you up the next day. So now you walk down the aisle, give yourself on to Christ, and think everything gonna be all right. There's a debt that got to be paid because we say we're believers, right? We as believers, we're in the fight of our lives because we made a decision to follow him. I can think about it a couple years ago when I finally made the turn. I played on the cusp for so long. I finally made the turn. Right? And I said, I'm going to really start doing this thing for Christ. I'm going to really immerse myself in it. And I went to a great banquet. It was a spiritual experience for me. Right? I goes in, and I was looking for something. I knew on the outside I was broken. But I needed some people at that time that's going to surround themselves around me and help me get to that next level because I needed it. So they embraced me. They took me into a place. We stayed there for 3 days. We prayed. We cried. We heard words that encouraged us. So that's when I made the turn. But because I said, now it's getting serious now. Now that I've seen Jesus, I've seen him now. So now I feel like now I got to do better. So I came home, I'm confessing, and I'm telling folk, I'm sorry, and all these different things come on. So I'm thinking now I'm about to just take off now. I mean, I've already repented. I said I was sorry. I told folk I was messed up. But it didn't quite work out that way. I thought I was in the clear. Sister Mary, I mean, all the time being drunk and falling out and all that kind of stuff. All I needed was this little experience, and I think I got over it. But then the Lord said, no, I'm going to take you into ministry. Wait a minute. I'm not ready for that yet. No. Now the refining process has come. Now that you've accepted me, now I got to burn some stuff off of you now. Because you see, you're not ready to go to that next level yet. Now that we got an introduction, now I got to start burning some stuff off you. Then you will understand what's going on. He said, you came to be broken. But that's a part of me, I got to get some stuff off of you now. Because in order to start Third Dimension Worship Church, you're going to have to need some refining. And some things going to have to come off you in order for you to go to that next level, right? But I wouldn't understand at the time, Third Dimension Worship Church wasn't even on my mind. But it was on his, like I talked about last week. God's always got a plan, right? But you got to learn how this. You got to learn to rejoice rejoice in your suffering.
Amen.
He said, if you're abused because of Christ, count yourself fortunate. Now, wait a minute, hold it. Now you're playing games with me now. Now, you're going to tell me now that I'm going through something. I should feel like I'm fortunate that I'm going through something. How about that? Now, how many of us do that? I mean, let's be honest. Or I'm really going through it. Well, I lost my car, my kids is bad, and, my roof of my house is falling, but that's great. Because I'm a Christian, man, I'm going through it. But this is great. How many of us do that? We don't do that. Because you know why? It's about us. It's personal. Because when we came down that aisle, we made an agreement with God and said, this is what I want to do. But we didn't understand the scripture totally when he said this. He said, man, you're about to go into the fight of your life, and you just didn't recognize what you did. I ain't trying to scare folk from coming down to Christ. I'm talking about we understand what we go through, but when I understand the word, he said, man, change your attitude when you're going through some of these things. As a believer, we have to shift our focus off our suffering and to rejoice. Our mind has to shift. It's hard to go through life rejected, talked about, my past, going through impossible situations. It's hard sometimes, isn't it? But he said, I know it's difficult. He said, just keep picking yourself up off the mat every day. Take that beat down every day with a smile on your face. And eventually it turns, trust me, it does. Because we got to understand what God has given us. He gave us power to overlook that thing. He said it takes the faith of a mustard seed. All I got to do is believe that I'm out of my situation and watch and see what's going to happen. But all of us look for our blessings in the same way, don't we? If our bills are not paid or something's going on, we're looking for a check, ain't we? We want an antidote to get us out of the situation. God said, no. That ain't the way I'm going to get you out of this way. Quit looking at God the same way. He said, don't look at your situation the same way. Don't think I'm going to send you a check. This may be a time to reduce some things. It may be time to get introduced to a budget. It might be. It might be time to get that belt out for that child you've been promising all those times. It might be time for that. Okay, it's time to stop talking sometimes, and sometimes we got to be about our actions, right? But you have to. You have to get yourself in a place where God can use you. He said you have to keep getting up, and you got to keep fighting. Christ suffered for the church because of his beliefs. He suffered for people who didn't appreciate him. He suffered for folk that didn't like him. He suffered with folk right around him that abandoned him, swore him down, they wouldn't leave. But as soon as the heat got turned up, they was the first one to leave. How can we be so close to Christ sometimes, yet be so far away? I said, I'm a believer. Peter, bad boy. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he pulled out swords, and he tough guy. But when he got pointed out, y'all know, How many of us doing the same thing in our own families? I can dress up good on Sunday, but baby, as soon as I hit that door, please throw that Bible in the back of the car. We riding. We're gonna go right back to the situation that we said we asked God to get us out of. Well, how do I go back to the same place? I just had an introduction with him. Yet I go back into a place and emulate the same things that I said I wanted to get out of. But I say I'm a believer. So when we get ourselves in these positions, we got to understand when we suffer, we're suffering for the right reasons because God is refining us. When we go back to our houses and the same thing is going on, and I can look at that situation and say, that ain't right. But as long as I allow those elements within my house to keep operating the same way, they'll never get uncomfortable. So I got to do something about those elements that are going on in my house and make them uncomfortable because my name is on the bills in here. So no, you can't come in my house and conduct yourself any old kind of way because I understand when I came down the aisle and gave myself over to Christ, I understood this one thing. Some things in my life got to change. You're going back to the same situations, right? You want God to fix it, but you won't let God in. You come back and you go into the door and close the door behind you. My house ain't cleaned up. I can't have you in here right now. Why does God have to give you an introduction to come into your house? It should already be in order, shouldn't it? He should not call you and tell you I'm on the way. Girl, I'm right around the corner. What happens? We throwing stuff in the closet. We trying to run and wash dishes. We want to do all this kind of, oh, baby, don't go in that refrigerator. Oh, no. I got that table wine and it's still open up from last night. The half drank beer. It's in there. Lord, please get this stuff out of here. We run out the back door with trash can. Clean, 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 clean. Trying to get our house cleaned up. But you know one thing about a good guest, they always seem to find the one thing that you was trying to hide. And that's God. He finds the one thing that we trying to hide in our lives. And he said, you got to get it out of here. Because when I come through and you said you belong to me, we can't have that kind of thing. We can't dwell in the same place. Right? But he said this, the believer glorifies God when he rejoices in his trials and persecutions. So when you go through your persecution, man, I'm going to give God praise because I understand I'm on my way out of this thing. Don't sit around and doom and gloom, crying yourself to sleep and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go find me a word and I'm going to start rejoicing because I'm coming out of this thing one way or another. I said, God, you said it in your word and I'm going to hold you on it. I better see something tonight. And I'm going to lay down and I'm going to sleep like a baby. Because I understand now the yoke is now off me. You said it in your word, Lord. You don't lie. You will never let me down. That's what you said. Yeah. I'm going to turn this thing around. I don't care what I lose in the process. Some of the stuff I need to lose anyway. But I understand this one thing. I'm going somewhere. He said, don't bring it on yourself by making decisions that are not of God. How many of us are doing that? How many of us put ourselves in a position where we make decisions and we want God to fix it? We made a decision that wasn't of God, but we want God to come in there and fix it. You know it wasn't right, but yet you did it anyway because it was good. You know how it is. Sometimes we get ourselves in a situation, we get a little extra limit on our credit card, we go out and charge something just because we got a little extra limit. How many of us are still paying for Christmas from last year? Got good to us, didn't it? But we're still suffering for the decisions we made last year. We can't expect God to fix those. That wasn't his mess to clean up. You had a choice to do that, but we didn't do it, right? But you got to remember this when you're going through your struggle. This is biggie here. Don't be ashamed of your suffering. Don't be ashamed. Many of us, we reject Christ because we're ashamed of what we're going through. Some of the things we go through, we run away from the church. Somebody hurt our feelings. Something going on. That's what we do, right? You can't be ashamed of what's going on. If you're being ridiculed, don't worry about it. Cursed out. I'm okay. Abused. Make a stand. Then God gets the glory. Make a stand for who you are in him. Because when you make a stand for him, everything changes. But too many of us do it the opposite way, don't we? We act out like our children. We want to act a fool because somebody hurt our feelings. Something didn't go our way. That job I wanted didn't come through. Imagine that. Jesus went through the same thing. Many of us go through things and the first thing that happens is we question the decisions. We look at our lives and we try to figure out what went wrong. Where did I go wrong? What did I do? Why? We go through the same thing. We try to mask the pain so people don't see it. When you finally realize that God is the only judge, he's going to restore me and get me out of the situation. But I had to come to my breaking point. These are the things that help us. But then you got to look at it from this perspective. He said, okay, it's judgment time. He said, in verse 17, he said, it's judgment time for God's own family. He said, you're going to be first in line. When it's time to stand in line of our by judgment and be accounted for, you will be very first. Sweat is going to be rolling down your brow. But for this, you got to be thankful. In order to understand what we went through and appreciate what God is doing, we understand this. He said, you're going to be first in line because you've already put yourself in a position to be close to me. When you think about this, he said, imagine what all you went through, what it's going to look like for somebody who never calls on him. He said, a lot of us going to get to a place we're going to get there smelling like smoke, and we almost got there. We understand this. We are on our way to the promised land. When we understand the promised land is right around the corner, man, I can change some things around in my life because I can rejoice that I can understand what God is doing through me. I don't care about what's going on this side. We all going to go through some emotional roller coasters like, Vivica Green said, you got me on an emotional roller coaster. But this is the thing we got to understand is this. Don't let your high be too high. Don't let your low be too low. Because we got to understand this one thing. On one day, I'm going to be with him in glory. And all the hell that I've been going through on this side is about to be washed away. I ain't got to worry about all this foolishness that's going on in my life. I ain't got to worry about tweeting. I ain't got to worry about nothing else. The only thing I got to worry about is this. Getting introduced to my Father, right? He said you heard God's message and you followed. You did everything you're supposed to do. You encourage yourself and you got to just keep on going. But he said, you got to commit yourself to the Lord. There will be some that won't make it. Some that's in our very circles, they're not going to make it. But we say we Christians, right? How do I walk past somebody every day, knowing the very condition that they're in, and I can't even love them enough to give them a word that may help them? But I say I'm a Christian. I might as well be telling them to go to hell right then and there. Because I said who I said it now, but I'm not willing to give you what I got. But I said I'm a believer. So in other words, we stand before God and we understand we're going to be the first. We're going to have to give a first an account, too, of what kind of life we live for him. So it's not going to be easy when we get there, right? But we got to commit ourselves to him, right? But there'll be some that still won't get it. But we got to understand this. When one misses it, we all miss it. We see the funerals happen all the time. Rest in peace. Such and such just passed away. My heart always grieves because my first thought goes to what they say or not. I always talk about East Sunday, Sister Carla. I always talk about this. Getting yourself on the team is my job. I don't care what church you go to. My job is this, get you on the team. God judges me because I got you on the team, not because you came to my church. The church will come and go. We don't, that's all part, that's life. We understand this, man, eternity is forever. Damnation is forever. So my job is saying, hey, look, we don't have all the bling bling that you want or the choir that you like, or we can't get the music right, or that's what keeps you from coming here. My thing is this, go somewhere that you're going to be able to give yourself over to him and understand we all going to latch up one day. Ain't going to be with him. Ain't going to be here with him in glory. So you can sit back and say, man, they couldn't even get their music going. The screens all jacked up and all this kind of stuff. But I see somebody that I recognize. May 27, 2017. I saw that guy. He was at Third Dimension Worship. He told me we was going to be here. But if you don't rejoice and receive him into your life, hell is the only option. We know that. They don't need to be playing around with it. It's a 50-50 shot you make it. But you got an opportunity to get there. The last few weeks, many of us have suffered more than we have in most of our lives. Many of us have thought about just giving up. Why not? I might as well just throw in a towel. Why keep going through all this? It seems like every time I open my check, something else is coming out of it. Every time I turn around, this is broke, that's messed up, somebody has said something, and all this kind of stuff. And we feel that rejection. Now they got this thing on Facebook. When you unfriend somebody, they send you a notification that say, hey, you just unfriend somebody. Now imagine this in the context of where we are in our life. When we stand before God and understand this, we've been unfriended. You know, think about it, and we get notifications when we in glory. You know, you've been unfriended. But these things encapsulate us because that's who we are. We all want to be liked. We all want to be in position. We always want to be in a place where we're liked and all this. But we made a choice to follow him. And it's not going to be all nice, glittery, gold. It's not going to be that way. But the encouragement comes from this. You're suffering for the right reason. You're suffering for the right reason. And it's just a season. Some of our seasons last longer than others because we haven't learned the principles of getting us out of it. We haven't learned to worship our way through the things that are going on in our life. We haven't learned to trust God enough to say, man, look, this is going on in my life. I got that. But I understand this thing, man, God can get me out of that. We got to learn how to flip it around. The switch. You know, we got to learn how to flip that switch. What I tell you earlier, my God is bigger. When we understand my God is bigger, we don't care about none of the other stuff that's going on, all the trials and tribulations that go on in our life. We understand this. Man, God gonna get me out of this thing. I don't care. I go out of there, this is messed up. Okay, that's good. That's all right. He gonna give me something else. And I'm gonna walk over that. And I'm just gonna keep on walking till I get to where God has me. You can't give up on this race. It's gonna be too good at the end. You know, if our lives were so great on this side, everybody would be a Christian. That's why most folks don't want to turn their life around, because they know that some things they're going to have to give up. That's right. And most folk ain't willing to give them up. So they say, I just rather just roll those spiritual dice every Sunday and think, man, I'm going to make it through just one more time. But think about the young guy that gets shot, the brother that gets pulled away, gets abducted, that never gets to give their life over to Christ, and never have that opportunity. He said, I'm going to come like a thief in the night. You gone. You think he'll wake you up and say, hey man, you still want to do that? You still got opportunity? That don't happen like that. And the last thing that happens to us is this. If I'm standing there clutching to breathe and all that, the last thing I'm thinking, I would think, I'm trying to breathe. I ain't worried about that. I ain't trying to quote those scriptures and do all that then, right? Why take the chance? Why keep rolling the dice thinking, I got another week to get it together? Today is your day. For somebody that says, man, look, I've been rolling this thing for 2 months.
Thank you for watching. Please come join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. We are located at 40 West 40th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46208. We are located inside of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. Remember to stay connected and subscribe to our YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and website. Thank you and have a blessed week. God bless.